I'm the descendant of Choctaw slaves, as well as Pocasset Wampanoag as well. In my research, in trying to reconnect with the heritage of my family, I had to go through a number of records. And what I found within my family on the Choctaw side is that we had a lot of names who we considered at that time Christian names. We didn't realize what the importance of them were. When I came along in the Black movement and joined the Black movement, we had this move to take on Pan-African names. And my great-grandmothers, on both sides, on my mother's side and on my father's side, were very upset about it. And I said, well, you know, we're giving up these Christian names, this white man's name. We're not going to keep that stuff. You know, I'm changing all my children's names to this, that, and the other. They said, well, no, you can't do that. But they really could not clearly explain it to me until I got to this point here, 30 years later. I'm doing my genealogical research, and I realized those names were the names of the ancestors that they had taken on. The reason they had taken on, and so to keep the memory of those ancestors, like Annie or Mariah or Glenn, they named children down the line those very same names, and that's how we were able to trace back who we actually were. The reason the names were changed is because I think what's missing here is the fact that, as opposed to the African slave, the Native Americans had bounties on their heads. We were cash cows for the settlers, for the invaders here. So hence the name Redskins. Those Redskins had bounty on those skins. So as a survival technique, we had to change our names.
Understood.
We had to blend in.
Sure.
And then came along the census takers who took us from Indian to Negro, and from Negro to mulatto, and now Black and African American, to wipe out the very memory of us being here so that there's no claim to the land by our people.
Particularly because it's been something that's personally affected me. And I know that there are several other Indians in the room that have been impacted by it as well. And particularly when it comes to classification, and then Pierre brought up the point of, you know, being recognized, federally recognized. So I wanted to address that also in terms of its impact to this day when we're talking about classification, and specifically because Pierre, you spoke about the tribe being detribalized in 1881. Well, one of the main chiefs at the time was Bristol Michael, who was my fourth great-grandfather. So my personal journey has been my fourth great-grandfather being chief of the tribe when they get detribalized, me coming across his death certificate, which has him listed as colored, no longer Indian, but colored, down to me, who was not only listed as African American, but who has never been allowed to be on the federally recognized rolls. So I'm wondering if anyone could speak or would be willing to, brave enough to speak about the ongoing impact that these classifications are still having on our people today, especially in terms of causing disunity, because Narragansett, Pocasset, Pokanoket, these are all peoples, but then amongst our own peoples you get, well, you're not federally recognized, so you're not a real Indian, that sort of stuff going on. So if we could talk maybe, or just touch on sort of the self-perpetuating sort of genocide that we keep on ourselves by buying into these colonial classifications that they keep popping up with every 10, 20, 30 years to kind of keep things in the mix the way that they've been.
Everything revolves around money, the classification, everything, even jails. Jails are a corporation. Towns are a corporation. They're about making the money. So the best thing that a person can do, first of all, is to understand the administration of justice, how things work. Education is going to help you a lot with a lot of the things that you're talking about here. Because if you don't understand how the system works, you cannot fight it. You simply can't. So if you understand the administration of justice and how each intricate government operation works, as they're saying, federal recognition. Well, how do you get federal recognition? Because under the Constitution, only Congress can deal with the Indian tribes. It doesn't say federal Indian tribes. There were no federal Indian tribes. All tribes are tribes. I know I have the blood. I did DNA. I don't have to worry about it. And my 10th generation grandfather was King Philip. So there's no reason for me to worry about being recognized by somebody who was recognized by my family first when they came here. So And that's one of the things, I mean, you have to have the pride to do that and say, you know, I am who I am and I'm not going to take it. But part of that is to get the education and to learn how, that's how we lost, because they used the money against each and every person here. And I'm not talking about just the Native Americans. It was the Africans, it was the Irish, it was the Scottish. They did it all over the world. It's all about money. And when people put the money aside and they learn to get along and stop thinking about the money and how they're going to make money, then some of these problems will cease to exist. Because, let me tell you, it's all about the money and the jurisdiction. They have the jurisdiction to tax you. Okay? They have the jurisdiction to give you a ticket, to tax your house. Nobody in this country is free, unfortunately. And just like I'm a veteran, I signed on the dotted line of property of the United States government until I surrender that right. You have to understand the system before you can fight it or before you can win. And we can't fight amongst each other. Every denomination in the world turned against each other. Africans sold their brothers. They sold their brothers to the slave traders. Okay? Indians did the same thing. Mohawks came down and worked in Boston for slave catchers. So everybody is at fault. The bottom line is the money. And when we put that aside, the problem will be resolved. Thank you.